Let's start the grafting. Yarns are connected to the back layer, and that's fine, they're on the right. And we're going to start to work in pattern from the chart. We are working the wrong side, and just like we knitted it, we're going to read it from left to right. So we're going to start with stitch 59, and because it's a wrong side, the colors are opposite to the colors we see on the chart. So the setup of the grafting is going to be worked with that's the first stitch, it's stitch 59, and if it is light in the chart, then I'm going to use the dark yarn. I'm placing my resting yarns between the needle. It makes it very easy to handle, so that's my advice to you. We're going to start with the setup. First, we do the bottom needle, then we go over to the top needle. In the setup, it's only the first stitch of each needle. So we're going to insert our needle purlwise into the first stitch of the bottom needle and pull the yarn through. And make sure the yarn is always underneath the needle. You don't want it to be over the needle. And then we go over to the top needle, and that's knitwise into the first stitch of the top needle. And pull the yarn through. That's the setup. You don't want the yarn to be over. That's going to create a new stitch under both needles, but over the bottom needles. And I'm going to pull it tight. This concludes the first stitch, and that's the only time we're working half a stitch with the color. So let's take off the chart. The first stitch is done. Next stitch on the chart is dark. So on the wrong side, it's going to be worked light, the opposite color. I'm going to take my dark yarn back to the center under the needle, back to the center to wait for me here, take the light yarn, and now we're going to start the grafting as we know it. So first the bottom needle, we're going to work, insert the needle knitwise, yarn underneath, so knitwise and off the needle, then purlwise, and it's going to stay on the needle. So next stitch is purlwise, stays on. Pull the yarn through, make sure it's under your needle, going under, and pull a little bit. Then we're going to work the top needle. Top needle, so purlwise for the first stitch and off the needle, then knitwise into the next stitch and leave it on. Yarn under both needles and pull it through and work slowly, and preferably on a table or flat surface, not on your lap. It's going to be very hard to work. Pull a little bit, and I'm going to take my yarn back to the center under the needle because we are changing color. So this stitch was done. Now we have 3 stitches, light on the chart, it's going to be dark stitches on the wrong side. Let's take the dark yarn and we're going to work 3 times all of what we've done, 3 times all of the steps. So first, bottom needle, knitwise off the needle, then purlwise stays on, and yarn underneath, and then we're going to have top needle, purlwise take off the needle, and knitwise keep the stitch on, pull the yarn through. These 4 steps are 1 stitch, and pull it to get the needles close to each other. Stitch 2, we're going to knitwise take it off the needle, then purlwise leave the stitch on, and pull the yarn through under both needles, but over the bottom needles. Go to the top needle, purlwise take it off, and knitwise leave it on, and I see that this stitch is mounted incorrectly, so I'm just fixing the mount, and now I can knitwise leave it on and pull the yarn through. That was stitch number 2. We've got 1 more stitch to go. Back to the bottom needle and knitwise off, purlwise on, and pull the yarn through under both needles. Back to the top needle, purlwise off, knitwise on, and pull the yarn through. Under both needles. Okay, give it a little tug, and we are done with the dark for now. Take it under the top needle and back in place. So we worked these 3 light color, which were dark here, and now we have 3 dark stitches. So that means that we have 3 light color stitches on our wrong side. Let's take the light color and work 3 times the steps. It is starting at the bottom needle, and we have knitwise off, purlwise on, pull the yarn through under the needle, and to the top needle. This is purlwise off, then knitwise on. Pull the yarn through and make sure it's under both needles. Back to the bottom, so that was stitch 1. We have knitwise off, purlwise on, and pull the yarn through. Top needle, purlwise off, knitwise on, and under both needles, pull the yarn through. And that was stitch number 2. We have 1 more stitch with a light color, knitwise off, purlwise on for the bottom needle, pull the yarn through under both needles, then purlwise off, knitwise on for the top needle, and pull the yarn through, and that was stitch number 3 with a light color. Let's take the yarn under the top needle and back to the center. These 3 are gone. Now we have 2 light boxes, which means 2 dark stitches on our wrong side. Let's take the dark and work 2 times the whole set of steps. Bottom needle, knitwise, take it off, purlwise, leave it on, and pull the yarn through and under both needles. Top needle, purlwise off, knitwise on, and pull the yarn through. I'm really paying attention to everything, to my needles, to the yarns, to the tension. So that was one more stitch with a dark color. Bottom needle, knitwise off, purlwise on, and pull the yarn through under both needles. Then top needle, purlwise off, knitwise on, and pull the yarn through and under both needles. So that was 2 dark stitches. Let's do a few more. I'm taking the yarn underneath the top needle and place it here. These 2 were done, and we can even start seeing, okay, we have 1 light, then 2 darks. It's the opposite of the chart. So let's do 1 light, 2 darks in one go. Start with the bottom needle, under the needle, the yarn, and then knitwise off, purlwise on, knitwise off, purlwise on of the bottom needle. Then we go to the top needle and we have purlwise off and knitwise leave it on and pull the yarn through under both needles. And we had 1 stitch with a light color. I'm going to bring it under the top needle back to the middle, take the dark yarn, and now we have 2 darks. So I'm going to take the dark yarn and start with a bottom needle underneath the needle and knitwise off, purlwise on the bottom needle, and then the top, purlwise off, then knitwise on and under the needles. That's 1 dark stitch, and we had 2. So we are going to go ahead and work the second one. Bottom needle, yarn underneath, And let's work knitwise off, purlwise on. Top needle, purlwise off and knitwise on. And that was our 2 dark stitches. Make everything here closed, and let's do just a few more to see, so we can see the chart. Take the yarn underneath and place it between the needles, and we have these 3 stitches done. Next we have 3 light stitches opposite of the chart, so let's do 3 light stitches underneath the bottom needle and knitwise off, purlwise on, pull the yarn through, then purlwise off, knitwise on, and pull the yarn through under both needles. Close the needles, close the distance. That's 1. 2 more. Underneath both needles, then knitwise off, purlwise on the bottom needle, and pull the yarn through under the needles. Top needle, purlwise off, knitwise on, pull the yarn through. That's stitch number 2, and we have 1 more to go. We're going to take the yarn under to the bottom needle, knitwise on, off, knitwise off, purlwise on, top needle, purlwise off, knitwise on, and pull the yarn through under both needles. And we are going to put the yarn down between the needles under the top needle and mark that these 3 stitches are done. And now take a look and see how nice the stitch is. Yes, we are going to have a little bit of a seam because the top needle where we casted on, we have all the stitches in the same color. They are not in pattern. So we will have a little bit of their color here. If you don't like that, if it bothers you, after we sew everything, you can go over what should have been light with duplicate stitch and just make the light stitches light, because all of these stitches are dark. So just with a light yarn, fix whatever stitches you feel or spaces you feel you want to emphasize. But other than that, we can see that the pattern is in place. Everything is right where it should be. And I think you have everything you need to finish the wrong side row. So let's go ahead, finish the grafting according to your chart, opposite color, starting with the bottom needle, knitwise off, purlwise on, then go to the top needle, purlwise off, knitwise on, and work in bunches, like as many stitches as you need for each color. And let's meet at the last stitch to see how to close this row. I arrived really close to the stitch marker and I wanted to just show you something so you don't get confused. We didn't remove the stitch markers because I thought it's a good idea to have the sections so we can keep track with the chart. just want to show you something. I have 2 stitches on my needle, but I'm only 1 stitch away from the marker here when it shows where the marker is supposed to be. So this is the line that shows me that this is the marker, and I only have 1 stitch. And that's fine, because remember that we are going to take this stitch off and then insert the needles to the next stitch. So actually the setup of the next stitch will be considered as working the last stitch. So when you get to the marker, the setup row, the second stitch is what you're supposed to see in the chart. It's a little bit confusing, but it's fine. So you're going to do the knit off and purl on, and then purl off, knit on, and you're going to have the last stitch on your marker, although this is where you're going to cross it from the chart, and then continue to work the next stitch. So that's fine. This is how it should be. Let's continue to work to the last stitch. I'm on the last 2 stitches. It's a dark light, so it's a light stitch, then the dark is the edge stitch. And I see that I have 3 stitches here, which is actually correct, because the next stitch is taking this one off and then working the next stitch as my next stitch, as the light stitch. So that's what I'm supposed to have. But on the top needle, I have only 2. So let's work with the light yarn first and see how we are closing this row. So knit off, purlwise on for the light stitch, the bottom needle, then we have the purlwise off and then knitwise on, for the light stitch, and the last stitch is the dark one. Take it under the needle to the center, and let's take the dark yarn and under the bottom needle we're going to start with a knit off, purl on, and on the top needle we only need to work this stitch once. I'm going to do the purl but leave it on still. So I'm going to knit the bottom stitch and take it off, and we are done with this needle. And the top stitch, we're going to purl the top stitch and take it off the needle, and we are done with grafting the wrong side layer. So we can see that we do have a seam. As I said, it's because we have a little bit of dark color here from the cast on. I don't mind that. I think it's fine as long as the pattern is continuing, and a little bit of a seam in the back is okay. It looks really nice and it looks really neat. So that's okay. Again, if you want, you can use a little bit of light yarn and go over these stitches. Next step, we're going to graft the right side row.